You couldn't ask for a better demonstration of contemporary feminist thinking than this exchange between Tucker Carlson and Monica Klein on Tucker Carlson's show just a few days ago.
Yeah.
I'm sure you describe yourself as pro-choice. I bet a lot of people watching right now think of themselves as pro-choice. So I'm not attacking you for that. But I wonder what you think of what Dr. Northam, the governor of Virginia, just said, that when a child, he described the child as an infant, is born, there's a point where the mother and the physician can decide whether to kill the infant or not. What do you think of that?
Look, Tucker, I understand that you want to go back to a time where Roe v. Wade was illegal, where women were having back alley abortions.
So Tucker Carlson has asked this accomplished, educated, professional woman for her opinion about specific statements that have come up in the news, and rather than giving an authentic answer to that question, she's instead attacking Tucker personally. Like she's never encountered the basic principles of reason and logic and debate in her entire adult life. This is logical fallacy 101 stuff going on here. It's her thinking that if I answer this question authentically, like a grown woman, like a mature thinking adult, then I'm going to undermine my preferred conclusions about abortion. So instead, I'm going to engage this deflection tactic where I invent a whole bunch of horrible motivations for you, project them onto you, hopefully put you on the defensive, and characterize you as an awful person for questioning anything about abortion in the first place.
Actually, what's
Look,
barbaric?
come on. I'm giving you time to make a real argument. I'm not arguing for the repeal of Roe v. Wade. I'm a very straightforward person.
That is what you're essentially saying.
Actually, no,
that is what you're essentially saying. So Tucker goes out of his way here to remind her that he's giving her the opportunity to make a proper argument, and that instead of realizing that she's been caught out indulging in these adolescent logical fallacies, she doubles down on her straw man and she tells Tucker what he is essentially saying. That's despite the fact that all Tucker has done is ask her for her perspective about these comments made by the governor of Virginia.
that's not what I'm arguing, and please don't be tiresome.
That's awesome, and that's how you need to speak to these people.
The governor of Virginia, who's a rising star in the Democratic Party, just said this. There's pending legislation that mirrors it, and I'm asking you what you think of it. That's it. I'm not here to debate Roe v. Wade.
I think that right now, reproductive health care is under attack by the Republican Party.
Still deflecting from answering the question.
72% of Americans support the right to choose, and yet we have Trump and we have sexual predator Kavanaugh trying to repeal Roe v. Wade.
That's slander.
And trying to take away our control over our own bodies. This isn't about babies. This isn't about health care. This is about you attempting to control women's bodies.
This is a master class in what happens when people give up that nimbleness of mind that comes with autonomous, independent thinking in favor of adopting ideological constructs and groupthink and letting that do their thinking for them. The purpose of ideology is to take complex situations for which there are multiple competing valid perspectives and to reduce that complexity down to the single interpretation that appeals to the ideologue, and to exclude, demonize, and invalidate anything that conflicts with that preferred interpretation. It's pure narcissism, and you see it here with Monica when she tells Tucker that this isn't about babies, this isn't about anything you care about, it's strictly about the issues and the interpretations that appeal to me, that represent my priorities, which are generated by feminist ideology, and which tell me that the only response to any criticism directed at abortion is to accuse you of wanting to control women's bodies.
Okay, please don't be a robot. Monica, you're smarter than that.
Awesomeness.
This is the governor of Virginia just saying this. I just want to know what you think of it. Is that okay? Does that bother you? It's a sincere question. This just happened.
Okay, it bothers me that you are attempting to control women's bodies.
Seriously, did you not just hear that bit about don't be a robot, Monica?
That's what you're doing. You are. The Republican Party right now is working overtime to repeal Roe v. Wade and to take away choice in every single state.
I wonder if you think you're convincing anybody, or if your unwillingness to address what just happened today on tape that we just played is a sign that you can't defend this. And if you can't defend it, I wonder why that is. Have you paused to ask yourself, as an American, as a person, what do I, as a woman, what do I think of that?
It's really useful to notice how Tucker keeps bringing her back and forcing her to confront the form of her argument, the style of her argument here. He's not allowing himself to fall for the trap of debating her about abortion and women's rights, and he's not allowing himself to be put on the defensive and to defend himself against all of these ridiculous accusations that she keeps throwing at him. He's letting her know that he's not falling for it, that he sees through these tactics of deflection, and he's telling her that there must be some reason that you don't want to authentically answer this question. And the obvious one is that you can't defend this. But she doesn't have the intellectual maturity or integrity to be honest about this, and so she's relying on these standard deflection tactics, and she's willing to accuse this other person of terrible things in order to protect her own ego and save herself from having to be honest. The lack of integrity and the lack of intellectual honesty here is blatant and appalling. But this is the intellectual quality that you get from contemporary feminism.
What do I think of it? Have you asked yourself why you spend so much time talking about this rather than thinking about why your party is trying to repeal Roe v. Wade and control women's bodies?
Okay. There's that robot thing again. She can't think or talk about this subject outside of the parameters of her ideological interpretation. So she keeps trying to reframe the discussion and force it back into the tiny box she's comfortable with.
Right now, there are 7 states where there's only 1 abortion clinic, okay? There are 4 states with trigger bans where we would, if Roe v. Wade is repealed, women cannot get reproductive health care. This is about a woman's right to choose, and you as a man should not have a single say in that.
Can you believe it? I mean, this is someone displaying the intellectual and emotional maturity of a petulant 12-year-old girl.
Wow. Do you think...
Wait, what was that little head thing with that look on her face there?
Wow. Do you think that... Wow. Do you think...
Yeah, that thing. What is that thing?
That you're making a case that most people agree with, that it's okay to abort a child in the 3rd trimester
Tucker,
for
you
no...
can keep trying to put words in my mouth and keep trying to say that the Democratic Party is hurting children. But your party is the one that is tearing families apart at the border and allowing children to die in federal custody. So whose party is actually harming children?
Wow. Let me just ask you one...
Oh, wait, I know where I've seen that head move with the look on the face thing before.
There's a new thing called women's lib. It means women get everything they want.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Let me just ask you one quick question. I mean, this is obviously a pointless conversation, and I think less of you.
Tucker Carlson is great. This is how these people need to be spoken to. They need to be introduced to reality and told by smart people that they're not smart. They need to be told that their childish narcissism and their irrationality is no longer going to be indulged, and that there are standards that need to be met if they want to be taken seriously by mature thinking adults. Standards which Monica clearly knows nothing about. And how did Monica respond to being justifiably scolded by a grown-up?
After, I have to say. But it's an honest question.
She responded with, "I know you are, but what am I?"
Have you thought about it? Do you have a real answer to what the governor of Virginia said, or are you going to throw yet another talking point at me? I mean, have you actually thought about it? Will you answer that question at all?
I have thought about it, and I am telling you that your party is attempting to change the conversation about Roe v. Wade and take control for women's bodies. I'm sorry that as a man, what you're focused on is controlling women's bodies, but we will not allow you to do that.
My friends, this is a child. She looks like a grown woman. She's involved in politics. She's got connections, but she has the intellectual and emotional maturity of a 14-year-old. And if you think that this is unusual or uncommon, then you haven't interacted with feminists lately, because this is the intellectual and emotional standard of contemporary feminism.
This is a child who's been born. This is not a woman's body. This is an independent person.
It just confuses me why you pretend that you have concerns over children when you're completely fine with ICE tearing families apart and children dying in federal custody.
In case you needed further proof of this woman's intellectual and ethical immaturity, she just accused this man of being fine with children dying so she could try to win a point in this debate. This is Monica believing that she's demonstrating her intellectual and moral superiority, right? Monica is a dreadful person who is convinced that she is among the enlightened class. This is the problem with contemporary feminism. It's the problem with the left in general these days. It's the problem with not particularly clever, not particularly ethical people who believe that because they hold certain fashionable ideological opinions, that makes them clever and ethical by default. Not only does that encourage them to think of themselves as enlightened and morally superb, it encourages them to believe that they're actually better people than anyone who doesn't mirror their own generic opinions back to them. In other words, they have this facade, this persona, this self-image of being enlightened and morally excellent, which they use to justify indulging in the worst characteristics imaginable. And if you want to contrast that to genuine class, character, and integrity, look at how Tucker Carlson ended this discussion with someone who had been so foul to him for the entire thing.
Monica, thank you. I appreciate it.
This is going to get ugly.
Never okay.